I walked into my car and this song was playing. I've never heard it before, but my goodness, is it beautiful.
What a life we have, catching stars and jars of glass, and we wouldn't have it any other way. What a life we've made, in the room that we've painted gray. Maybe we should just stay in bed today. Let's make up a story and pretend it's real. Live in the castle way up on a hill. Rule over lands as far as our eyes can see. And you'll be the queen of everything.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty, and it's so fitting for us reading the book of Esther right now.
Live in the castle way up on a hill. Roll over lands as far as our eyes can see. You'll be the queen of everything. 'Cause in any weather, there's nothing better than sailing away with you.
Right here. Oh, I love him. Oh, he's handsome. He's a handsome boy. Don't be shy with it. I should be finishing my chores right now, like at least putting my laundry in the washer, but you're so cute, my baby. I don't want to leave him. I don't want to leave him. He's handsome. He's handsome. He doesn't look like a homeless dog anymore. So I just want to spend some time with my babes, and then I'll finish my chores, okay? I asked him if he wanted to go outside, and he got excited, so let's take him outside so that we can finish what we need to do. Go pee, baby. Go pee, and I'll give you a treat. He's going pee. Here's your good boy. Here's your good boy. Come on, let's get you a treat. It's so pretty outside, so we're definitely going to spend time out there. It's my brother. And that's a picture of me and him. I love him so much. These are his ashes. We have them here. Okay, once I put this load to wash, I can start stretching. Look at him, Mr. Speedy Pants. He's so nosy. He's like, give me another treat. No, I'm busy. So he's put like a little bit on the clothes and then a little bit in here because I'm pretty sure this disperses it appropriately. I just finished stretching. Now I'm gonna feel pretty today. I don't always feel pretty, but I looked in the mirror and I was like, I hope to look like this on my wedding day. To feel pretty, you know? Because some days I feel so not pretty. I'm sure we all have those days. It's normal. It's part of the human experience, huh, baby? No, Mommy, I always feel gorgeous. Look at me. I'm perfect. That's true, baby. Even when you looked homeless? Yeah, even when I looked homeless, I thought it was cute. I'm cute. Look at me. Look at my eyes. I'm so handsome. That's the kind of confidence we need. My baby. He's handsome. Look at his face. You can't help it that he's handsome. He's gorgeous this morning. He woke up like a shining star, just like his mommy. We're shining stars today. My trap muscles are strong. Like, dang, who's she? I did mention before that I wanted to read one chapter in the book of Esther at a time, just because I really wanted to dissect the chapters. In previous books, whenever I would read like 5 chapters at a time, it was because there was a lot of repetition. There's a lot to learn in repetition, right? It's kind of like in a sport or in anything that we do. Repetition brings forth perfection, right? To some capacity. The more we practice, the better we get at what we do. So in the previous books, seeing the same story repeated, it really signals to the reader that there is a problem here, a consistent problem, right? And it's an example of this would be falling into perpetual sin, right? Like something that we know, that we are conscious of the fact that we should not be doing, and we continue to do it. So when the book is showing us the different kings in the previous chapters of like their downfalls, and then their preparation for kingdomhood, and then another downfall, and then preparation for another king, and then he does well in his service to the people, and then the next king doesn't, right? So there's just a lot to learn from those experiences. Whereas in the book of Esther, each chapter really brings forth a lot of valuable insight and what could come of people depending on their positions in this lifetime. In chapter 6, we get to know a little bit about how the king conducts his affairs, right? And so remember, in Esther, God isn't really mentioned in this book. And the reason why is because this is during a time frame where God has been forgotten when it comes to kingdoms, right? So now these kings that are currently in kingdomhood have no reverence for God. The Jewish people do, but they are kind of hidden in the dark right now, because they lost their lands, they lost a lot because of disobedience. So now there are kings that have been placed in positions of power that are not of Jewish descent in lands that used to belong to them. It makes sense that God isn't mentioned in this book, right? But God is all over this book, right? Because even if all of the people of the land, all the people in the world currently do not reverence God, God still exists. So he will still be evident in the world. Once people don't reverence God, his ability to work miracles and wonders and do what God does here on the earth, it's overlooked. And we see a little bit of that in Esther. It says, that night the king could not sleep, right? Because Esther already came to him, letting him know what she wanted of him, which was to hold Haman accountable to what he was trying to do to Mordecai and the Jewish people. And so the king still loved Esther, even after he found out that she, I wouldn't say loved, I would say favored, right? Because the way the king went about Esther and went about his manly duties at this time, because God wasn't at the center of his life and this was not a man of God, he just found favor in Esther, because I'm sure he saw the spirit of God in Esther, right? So he was like, this is who I want to be my wife. And that's why when she came to him to petition to him just to save her people, he was like, I'll give you half the kingdom. And Esther was like, I don't need that. I just need my people to be saved, right? She wasn't trying to take advantage of her position. She just knew that her people mattered to her and that she needed them to be okay. And so the king was like, okay, that's what you want, I'll do it. And so that night the king couldn't sleep. So what happens in chapter 6, we see that Haman is called in, and the king orders him to take Mordecai all over the city on a horse in a beautiful robe, honoring him. It was like a special thing that they did to honor people all over the city. So that was very humiliating for Mordecai, because the people knew how he felt about Mordecai and what his plan was. The king didn't know his plan, but the people were aware. He ended up going home and telling his wife and friends about what had happened, and he was really embarrassed. Even his advisors and his wife said, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. So these people that are advising him are well aware of the favor over the Jewish people, right? Even though they didn't have what they used to have, God's favor never left them. And so they know that Haman's downfall is just the beginning. And normally in life, right, we can see, like, I mean, I have the gift of being able to see into people, into lives, into disobedience, like into where people are headed on their journey here. I don't know if you have that. I'm sure not everyone has that gift, but I can see into people's futures, essentially, and not from a place of psychic abilities, not from a place of like worldly ways, right? Because The way you know the difference is a person that has these gifts doesn't go to God to fortify them, to strengthen these gifts that are given to them by our Creator, right? They go to the enemy. They use it to manipulate. They use it to maintain power, even when they're not conducting themselves in reverence to God. They do it for their own gain. They do it to move things in the physical world, right? Through manipulation. When a gift is given to you by God and you reverence God, God strengthens it when it's time. And God loosens that strength when it's not time. And God will call you to not share certain things. And God will call you to share certain things, right? So that's when you put God at the center of your gifts, right? So people that share these gifts are one and the same initially until they either place God at the center of their gifts or they remove God at the center of their gifts. That's where it turns dark and that's where it turns light, right? Depending on how people are living their lives, I know for me, I can see signs of people's downfall. People usually have this gift. Let's say if like you're watching a movie and you're able to tell what's going to happen at the end of the movie and you've never seen that movie before and you've never heard about it before, but you still know how the movie's going to end, you probably have the gift of seeing. You're a seer. If you got closer to God, you can strengthen that gift and God can use it to glorify himself, right? To bring his children home to him. Whereas the enemy, if you give it to the enemy, he can use it to give you the illusion of power over it, and then it can get very dark very fast. Here we're seeing that Haman it's even being prophesied over him, right? By his own wife, by his own advisors, that this is not good for his future. And the next chapter is titled Haman Hanged, right? So he eventually dies, and we're aware of that. We knew that was going to happen because I mentioned it in a previous video that Haman died because he was trying to kill God's people. For people that mess with God's people, death is not always the likelihood of what's going to happen, but sometimes it's a lot of like really bad things end up happening to these people just as a correction and as a discipline. And if the people learn, they can either surrender to God and become God's child, or they can just stay on the enemy's camp and try to get strength from the enemy again to go to battle again, but they're going to lose again, right? Because that's what always ends up happening. We see it time and time again. So that's chapter 6. Mordecai is honored by the same man that was trying to humiliate him, and it never worked. Because when you're a child of God, people will come in and try to humiliate you, and people will come in and try to kill you, right? Whether it's your spirit. Remember, the murderous spirit is not always physical murder. People can murder you with their words in the spirit realm before it takes fruition in the 3D. So if people are speaking death over you, speaking death over your life, right, telling you that that's never going to happen, that dream is never going to happen, that promise that God gave you is never going to happen, they're killing you spiritually. And God does not like that, right? So people will be held accountable for that, but you also have to know your power in God, right? Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. When people are speaking these things over you, rebuke them in the name of Jesus. Even if you don't say it directly to that person, like maybe initially you're not comfortable with doing that, I do now. Like if somebody's speaking death over me, I rebuke them to their face. I'm like, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. That's a lie from the pit of hell. I don't care. I don't care if it sounds weird. I know, like initially when I used to start talking like this, it was weird for me. But the more I've gotten closer to God and the more God has strengthened my spirit, and the more I trust in him and I believe in him and I've seen his promises over my life take fruition, I'm like, I don't even care how I'm perceived when I say these things, because I know there's power in what I'm saying. And so I'm going to say it with conviction. But before, I used to rebuke it in private, right? Like I used to take it to God and be like, God, I rebuke that spirit, because sometimes it can stay alive and well in your brain, right? And you can think about the things that people said over you and you can start to believe them, right? And so the best thing that you can do whenever that happens is take it straight to God. And if you find it happening too much, even after you've taken it to God, then start to speak it out loud, even if it's just in the privacy of your own home. Once that starts to be strengthened in you, you will be willing to say it to people, because you're like, I don't care if you think I'm weird. I think you're weird for trying to speak death over my life. So just remember that the spirit of death is not, like I said, always a physical death, right? We see Haman physically killed because of what he tried to do to the Jews. He was trying to murder Mordecai and all of the Jews. And so he paid the price with his own life. That's not always what it's going to look like in your life. It's just going to look like, for example, let's say that you have a boss that's over you that is always speaking death over you, and you rebuke them in the name of Jesus. You take it to God and you reverence God and you're obedient to God and what he's calling you to do in that situation. One day that person's not going to be over you anymore. right? So that could be like a form of death. Not that they actually died in their real life, but they died in your existence. Like they're no longer alive in your realm of existence, right? And that's a form of death. This is played out even when relationships end, right? Like that's why it can be so painful when you're in a relationship and it comes to an end, because it's like a death. Even if the person hasn't actually died, it's a death in your own life because that person no longer exists in your reality. So when you learn to take people that are trying to diminish you, diminish your value, diminish your worth in God, like that is so inappropriate. God does not like that. It's pretty evident that sometimes death is a blessing. Scriptures teach us that sometimes God removes people from this world at a young age because he's trying to protect them from the evil in this world, and it's their time to go, right? But sometimes God uses death to protect his children. So death is not one size fits all. There's blessings in death and there is consequences in death. That's it for chapter 6. I love you. I hope you got something from this message. I'm gonna eat breakfast. Okay, guys, breakfast is done. I'm still eating the same thing. This is my 3rd day in a row, just because it's so good. I normally don't buy bacon, but it's been here, so I've been making it. And then now I just need to add my Louisiana hot sauce. When he's just staring at me, I think he's just asking for food, and then I forget that he's a baby. He just wants to be with his mom. He fell asleep on my legs, but he kept falling off. That's because there's not enough room for him. And so I stuck him in my sweater. Now he's inside of there. My sweetheart.